Hey everybody, welcome to my semi-civil gender discussion series with Jodi Art. Let's just dive right into it.
Hi, this is an intro to Tom's question about why women go into feminism for therapy. And this is just an introduction because it's going to take way too long. Well, it's not going to take too long. I want to go into everything. I want to go into everything in great detail and with great honesty, without any rose-colored glasses whatsoever. And first, before I start touching on that, I want to say, and as I'm talking about this, I would like people to keep this idea in their mind when they're thinking about things. The solution to this feminist thing, and that's just one aspect of how we as humanity are being bombarded with a culture that is not in our best interest. It's breaking us down. It is making men and women confused about who they are and their masculinity and their femininity. And I'm not saying that we aren't a little bit masculine and feminine.
Well, one thing that gets a burr under my saddle is that the social justice warriors seem to think that people against gay marriage and things that undermine the traditional family is a hostility towards men that are effeminate and women that are tomboyish. But I think most people are just more concerned about boys and girls having moms and dads when they grow up. And all of the science tells us that this is better for them. Feminism and social justice warriors, they don't want to hear nothing about it. They absolutely think masculinity is bad. Men can be good, but they can't be masculine because being a manly man is toxic. And there are a lot of brutes in the world, but there are also a lot of really messed up ladies. So if somebody's got a mental health condition, do we attack their femininity and try to destroy that in them? No, of course not. And if a male has psychological issues, mental health issues, you don't try to destroy masculinity in men. It's just absolutely disgusting eugenics type behavior being practiced by the social justice warriors and feminists. There's nothing wrong with traditional men, and there's nothing wrong with manly men. And I'm not just going to sit here and take it anymore. I'm going to tell feminists that we're not toxic. You're toxic. Leave us alone.
All of us, we all are a little bit. Just like I was talking about how masculinity wants to protect, so does femininity. But we are very confused about ourselves. We're very confused about the other gender. The solution to start thinking about is to break off into tribes. All right? And what comes to mind when you first think about that? Break off into tribes. I know as women we might think about like tribal people and how they're treated. Well, and maybe some people are thinking cults and everything like that. Me, it's taking me a lot to admit this, but as of last year, I discovered something about myself, and that is I am a shaman healer type. Moses, he married a woman that in the Bible who probably the dad was a shaman. Maybe Moses was a shaman, right? You know, I'm not starting a cult, but that's the thing. Even if we're men, women, masculine, feminine, not all of us are meant to have kids. what's going on in the world right now, it's like with the women are going towards feminine as a support group, feminists as a support group, like, oh yeah, get paid maternity leave, right? They don't even fucking realize what they're doing when they're going for that, right? They don't even fucking realize the danger in just like continuing to do this. So, in my feeling, we're gonna have to start breaking off into tribes, like what some people, they live in a commune where like a lot of different families are together. But like for me, I wasn't taught anything about men. I was taught to stay away from them. I don't need you getting fucking pregnant.
What I find troubling with what you're saying, Jodi, it sounds very spiritual. And it's not that I'm anti-spiritual and I'm not anti-religious, although I am agnostic. But what I do reject with absolute certainty is intuition over science. And a lot of skeptical, a lot of rationalists, and a lot of empiricists are going to feel that way. And it bugs me when skeptics really go after spiritualists. In most cases, it's just not called for. But on the other hand, feminism is all about spirituality and seeing the divine in the female. Well, once you got the divine being female, male can no longer be divine itself, right? So that is my caution to religious or spiritual folks. You don't get a free pass with me. I have no interest in tearing you down. But once your spirituality starts crossing the line and oppressing people's natural rights, that's when I'm going to stand up and get in your face. And so as long as your spirituality can coexist with skepticism and individualism, I have no problems with it. I just simply see it as a form of free expression, and you ought to be able to do that. And I do agree with you. There's something that's broken in our culture and in our people. You can call it spirit. I can call it social conditioning. And to me, that's just arguing semantics.
Nobody taught me about men except for one of my best friend's stepdads, who said when I was like 16, he said, listen, these boys right now, they want to go break shit, they want to go skateboarding, they want to do this and do that and do this and that. They don't really want to be your friend. They want to have sex with you. They don't want a relationship. They want to hang out with their buddies right now. I got it. You know, ding dong. Something went off into my head.
Well, it's more nuanced than that. I mean, boys, yes, they are horny toads as teenagers and as young men. That's definitely true. But that's kind of like saying that somebody that likes spaghetti doesn't like steak. In other words, you can be really, really driven by sex, but you can also fall in love, but you can also bond with somebody. That being said, I think it's a terrible idea for boys and girls to have a lot of sex with a lot of different partners. Sure, you might get immediate self-gratification, but is that the road to happiness? Long-lasting happiness? No, not from what I've seen. I will say a lot of these high school sweethearts that ended up getting married that I grew up with are still married. And a lot of people that I know that got married in college or afterwards, they're divorced. Now that's anecdotal, but I think as a young person, you can really bond to somebody of the opposite sex. Yes, for boys, sex is going to be a very big issue for them. But that doesn't mean if a woman is good and nurturing to him, a young lady is nurturing and good to him, that he's just going to move on if they have sex. I think the lesson there is that Sex complicates that bonding rather than facilitate it. And that was in my day. Today's day, I have no idea. But the other thing that you were talking about is true as well. Men and boys are competitive. And if you don't let them compete, they won't know how to behave with other men around. So if you've got a young lad and he's got himself a girlfriend, it's in his best interest to still spend a lot of time bonding with his male friends and learning to interact with them socially.
Women are not getting that. Women are not getting any kind of insight about men and boys their age.
Well, they're getting information, it's just not accurate. And they're getting it from the public schools.
That kind of thing. We do have kind of self-help books. Men, they have these books like the Pickup Artist book, right? Even one of those famous pickup artists, he went on to say, yeah, I know how to pick up women now. I fell in love and I don't know how to maintain a relationship.
I have no idea if there's always been a pickup artist industry or not, but there's always been pickup artists, and everyone that I ever knew ended up having a miserable life. So if you treat other people like shit for your own sexual gratification, you're a psychopath and a monster. How you treat other human beings is the foundation of a happy life.
I have a child and she goes to daycare, and one of the kids, it was a guy, and the little boy, and his parents are like, oh, he's so fucking misunderstood as a little boy. They think he has problems. And I told his mom, I said, your child's great. Look at my kid. They love each other. My daughter's an alpha. I'm never going to break that backbone of hers at all. But she knows how to get the boys to chase after her. I don't know. I sort of know, but, anyway, she knows she will get 2-3 boys to chase after her, and she loves it. And the little boy is said to have problems because he has a very, very strong will. And I was like, you're an alpha. Your kid's an alpha. And now they're a lot happier. Uh-oh, my daughter's coming up. But anyway, a lot of these women are going into feminism because they're alphas. So there's no place for all these women alphas, right? Where are they going to go? And they're angry, I guess. I don't know. It's something to think about. So that's it for now.
If that's right, then the alpha females are the feminazis and the snowflake females are their useful idiots. Definitely food for thought there.
So I'm going to talk about manspreading. And as an issue that's being, women don't like. This is for Tom, okay? So let's talk about this. So I never noticed manspreading until I lived in the New York City area, and manspreading happened. It would be pretty busy on the subway, rush hour, or whatever, and the manspreading happened. People are posting pictures about it. This really, really does happen.
I don't think anybody's denying that it's happening. I think what people are saying, this does not equate to a major social issue, such as 9 out of 10 workplace deaths being men, and then women turning around saying that they are not the appreciated sex, that women get more healthcare funding than men, and women are not the appreciated sex, that women get more social services than men, but that women are the sex that is not cared for, and that feminism says it's about equality, and it chooses this issue as an issue of oppression when men are getting the short end of the stick in life and death matters. So I think that anti-feminists like to point this one out because it shows how feminists are not concerned about equality, they're only concerned about themselves. And when men are getting the short end of the stick and when women are causing problems, they don't care. And Manspreading really points this out.
This is what women do. I guess she's walking in, right? She's past the line. But women, let's say, imagine this is the sidewalk right here. Women are pushing their babies out into the street to check and peek what's going on. And they're not being very careful. But anyway, if any guys can talk about that, maybe Tom will, about the guys spreading their legs. What are they doing that? I don't think they even notice what's going on. I don't know what they're doing. Now, airing out their balls. I mean, let's just really say what's going on. What's going on with that? Okay? And that's it. That's it for now.
Well, one of the things is men and women both don't like people sitting right next to them, so they use different strategies to dominate space. So that's one thing that you've got going on there. And when you have an extreme case of men spreading out their legs, that's probably what's going on. Normal manspreading is just biological. You just have to have the equipment and you know that it's not a joke. So the male pelvis is different than the female pelvis, and I'll leave a link in the description where a scientist goes through this. But basically the male pelvis is narrower for some reason. So when you're sitting, your junk is on the same level as your inner thighs. It's not like it can go back a little, or your junk is pushed up right where you don't want it to be. And it's just physically uncomfortable. But also the testicles are outside of the body. The testicles and the scrotum, they operate at a hotter temperature than the body. So it creates a very uncomfortable heat situation down there. So yes, there is a bit of manspreading going on that's totally about biology and avoiding an uncomfortable position. But yes, you're going to have a lot of assholes, just like you have a lot of asshole women, doing their damnedest to take up as much space as possible. So my information was that New York made a law against men taking up too much space, but didn't make a law for women taking up too much space. Again, it points out the hypocrisy of the feminist movement and how men are treated like shit and women are put on a pedestal.
Hi, this is a message to Tom and any other guys or any other women who would like to start having discussions with me over a podcast or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're talking about maybe doing live streams or Google Hangout type of things. And for me, it'd have to be a lot more focused. So I was totally prepared for that topic for the day. I don't like talking while I'm thinking. I use that as a tool, but when I do that, I say a lot of things that I ultimately don't mean, and I don't want to open myself up to having a lot of things out there that I really don't mean. And moreover, I don't put any credence at all into spirituality. I understand other people do. They have a perfect right to do so. But if that comes up in the conversation, the only thing I can do is either oppose it or keep silent. And so in your case, Jodi, where you keep going back to that would not be a good show for me, because out of respect, I want to let you express yourself, because you're using your personal beliefs in a way that don't infringe on other people. I really don't have a complaint against it, other than I don't think it proves diddly. On the other hand, being a naturalist and kind of observing behavior in nature and trying to apply that to the human condition, I think there is value in that. Those observations that we see in nature are rarely proof in my mind for when applied to human society. For instance, a crab is not the same as a dove, is not the same as a human. So, like Voltaire said, Judge me not on my answers, but judge me on my questions. So I think whatever causes you to raise a question is a really good thing. But the bottom line is I don't want to get in a situation where I don't have the opportunity to edit out my own misconceptions or my own misstatements. And I don't want to get in a situation where I'm put at odds against somebody because I disagree with them. But in the end, I really don't care if they hold that opinion for themselves anyway. But if you're on the air saying things that you believe in, and I don't believe in them, and I don't say anything to counter that, then it will appear to the listener that I support your positions on these things. And so I don't want to get in that situation either.
Because I'm an abstract thinker. Okay, so I want to explain something. So yesterday I put out 2 videos, 1 and 2 on gender discussions with Tom, and I said that I'm a shaman, and I started talking about how we need to all become tribes, and I started talking about alphas. See, the thing about me is I allow myself to think one thing one day, and then the next day I completely change my mind, and I don't have to think that way anymore.
Well, I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, but that, in my opinion, comes from not having thought out a complete set of principles to live by. In other words, if something appears good on its surface, you will latch on to that, and then later when you figure out that, well, it wasn't so good for whatever reason, you'll change your mind. I, on the other hand, have a set of principles that values people's individual rights pretty much against collective rights. And so if you tell me that if we do this, it will be better for humanity, I really don't give a shit if it interferes with individual human freedom rights. I really don't. If more people die because we have freedom, I don't care. I'm not changing my principle from one day to the next. To me, the only legitimate function of a government is to protect everybody's natural and equal individual rights. All of that other crap doesn't matter to me. I don't need to be the richest country. I don't need to be the richest person. I don't need to be the most powerful country. I don't need to be the most powerful person. I just want to be free. And because that's my guiding principle, I can live a life relatively free of contradictions. No one can live free of contradictions because we don't understand everything. And our society won't allow us to live the way we want to live, so we do have to compromise our positions. But anyway, in most cases, the people that change their positions often, their principle will be on safety or comfort or wealth, but those aren't really principles. Those are interests. And so when you live your life protecting your interests, you're just going to have contradiction day in and day out and day in and day out, because depending on the situation, you'll need to do something different to protect your interests. But if you live a principled life where what applies to me applies to everybody, therefore we all have equal rights in this area, there should be no way for me to impose myself upon somebody else against their will, and vice versa. Life becomes a lot simpler and life becomes just. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in.
I want to be able to get the message out for spiritual reasons, right? I'm not trying to get all of the viewers. I'm not trying to gather all the viewers. I want to have open, honest discussions and get the message out. Now, while I was talking about how I'm a shaman, I came to a truth. And I don't know how to explain it, right? But I start talking about something, and all of a sudden the truth comes up.
Yeah, that's really not a mystery. What you're doing is you're challenging your own statements as you're talking, and then you turn that around in your mind and you come up with an alternative statement and check that against your former statement, and pretty soon you'll arrive at the most correct thought. out of all of the thoughts that you had. It's simply laying all your cards out on the table, and once you have them out on the table, you can see which one is your ace card, and you take that one and run with it. It's not a mystery. If you've ever built a house or done any kind of construction or mechanicking, you know that you'll try things from a bunch of different angles. Those things that you try emanate from thoughts. And sooner or later, you'll choose from out of all of the thoughts that you have, the one that you think is the best. It's just called problem solving, and it's not a mystery in any area of life. You think about things, and you end up discarding the things that make less sense. It's perfectly natural.
I started talking about tribalism, then I started talking about alpha women. Before that, I was talking about masculinity being triggered. Well, I'm going to keep talking about this and how our femininity is being all screwed up. The women are becoming masculine, and the males are being emasculated. It's going in all the different directions, and there's a bigger picture. There's a spiritual thing going on that a lot of people don't understand.
Well, surprisingly, I agree with you. But when I say something spiritual is going on, I'm talking about changes in people's hearts and minds. I'm not talking mysterious forces at work. I'm talking about forces at work that may be difficult to discern, may be beyond a single person's ability to understand all of the things at once. But I'm not talking about mana or entities being involved in this whatsoever. That being said, the spirituality of the Western culture, there is something that is destroying it. And a lot of it has to do with a lack of respect for the individual rights of people. I see this from popular YouTubers that think they're great skeptics, and in a lot of ways, a lot of them are. And yet they can justify thievery if the government does it. They will use whatever thing they think is beneficial to them or to society and be willing to trade freedom for it. And not only trade their freedom, trade other people's freedom for it. And that is just a violation of somebody else's human dignity and their natural rights. I see that as the absolute obstacle to humanity realizing its full potential. This idea that you can elect somebody to centrally plan out civilization and to involve itself in all sorts of manner of day-to-day living is like living your life under the thumb of a nanny. Is like living your entire life under the thumb of a nanny. A nanny that won't let you fly a plane because it's too dangerous. A nanny that won't let you try a medicine because it hasn't been proven. Even if you're facing certain death without the experimental drug. But these people, these so-called skeptics, think that some people are unqualified to make these judgments, but they are qualified. And I'm talking about really good skeptics here. They don't realize they're raging against the very system that they support. They just don't support that the system is making decisions they don't like. Spirituality will return to the people when they realize they are in no position, they have no moral authority, they have no intellectual authority to tell people how to live their lives. The only authority they have is to tell people to stay out of their own lives. That is where morality comes from. That's what feeds a man's spirit and feeds his soul. So of course people are broken. They think they have a right to impose their way of life on other people. How can you not be broken?
The rise of the alpha woman. She's coming into, she's rising in power, like just that archetype. Yeah, so the alpha women have not had a place in society. Maybe I'll do some more videos on the alpha woman. we only know her of matriarch. When you think about how there's not just one type of man, right? There's not just one type of male. There's not just one type of female.
Well, whatever videos you put out for gender discussions, I would appreciate it if you kept focused on the topic. Because bouncing from one topic to the other, I don't think we get very deep into it. Because I am fascinated with this idea of the alpha feminazi and the, I don't know what you want to call it, omega snowflake feminists, and seeing what attracts them to feminism and maybe what can prevent them from going into feminism. Historically, there has been unfair barriers to alpha females rising to positions of power. My problem with it is that somehow in that process, the family has just been crushed and men are being demonized, and I've had enough of it. Absolutely have had enough of it.
But then when we are able to think in new ways, then we can see how certain things are being said that are revealing certain truths. I am not very good at, I have tried so many times to edit down my videos in order to make them shorter, because some of my style is like thinking about things and having stuff come through. And right now also it's important, the thing is, it's important for people like you and me and everybody else to start speaking in groups together, not necessarily with the goal of having 1 million subscribers. What a lot of people are doing right now is using YouTube to be able to speak in groups, not necessarily to have the most subscribers, to have things go viral, because a lot of those channels with like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they're part of the control system, like Cat Black, Copper Cap, and I don't know who else. But the thing is, we can still keep watching them and we can evaluate what's going on, and maybe some people will come across our videos and want to get in on the discussion too, right? Because a lot of those people are also putting videos out in order to piss people off. So that's why it's important for people like everyday people like you and me to start talking in a normal way, And a lot of us are doing that. I know I am doing it with other groups of people who are, spiritual. And I think one person called it the brave awakened. Right? So that's my message about more gender discussions. And as things come up, I'm going to post them. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I'm open to doing a Google Hangout or a live stream, but I only want to do that when I know exactly what the topic is going to be, so I can spend a day or two preparing for that show before we go on. I'll do my talking to myself, and once I've worked out my opinion, that's when I'm ready to go public with it, not before.